Incumbent Umaro Sissoko Embalo is seeking a second term. He ran against opposition contender Fernando Diaz and 11 others. What exactly are you hearing about this coup?
Well, we heard from this press conference held at the military headquarters, where a group calling themselves the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order effectively said that it discovered an ongoing plan to destabilize the country, saying with the participation of drug barons, and the aim was to destabilize the election results. Presidential election results were supposed to be announced on Thursday, tomorrow. And so they're just taking over power just as those results were going to be announced. Two main contenders, the incumbent president, Umaro Sissoko, and Fernandez Diaz, both claiming victory. Now, we don't know the whereabouts of the president, but what we know is that the presidential palace is heavily guarded.
Restored by the top leadership of different branches of the armed forces, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has just assumed the full powers of the State of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, deeply committed to the values of national security, civil peace, the defense of territorial integrity, and the independence of Guinea-Bissau. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order responds promptly and appropriately to the discovery of an ongoing and deliberate plan to destabilize the peace and stability of our country, for which an operational scheme was set up by some national politicians with the participation of the well-known drug baron, both national and foreign, as well as an attempt to manipulate election results. The activation of this plan was discovered by the State Intelligence Service, a cache of war weapons such as rifles and ammunition. Thus, until the entire situation is properly clarified and the conditions for a full return to constitutional normality are restored. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order, it has been decided to immediately depose the President of the Republic and to close, until further notice, all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, to suspend, until further notice, the activities of all media organizations, to immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process, to close the land border, maritime and national airspace, to establish a curfew from the new hour until 6 o'clock until further notice, until the necessary conditions are met to restore constitutional normality to the state of Guinea. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order will exercise state power from this date onward. The High Military Command for the Restoration of State Security and Public Order calls for calm, the cooperation of Guineans, and the understanding of all in the face of these serious situations imposed by the national emergency. Mission November 26, 2025, High Military Command for the Restoration of National Order. Thank you very much. A descoberta de plano profundamente comprometido com os valores de segurança nacional,
deeply committed to the values of national security, civil peace, the defense of the country's territorial integrity, and the independence of Guinea-Bissau, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order is reacting to the discovery of an ongoing plan to destabilize our country.
Reage à descoberta de plano em curso de desestabilização do nosso país para a operacionalização da qual se montou esquema.
To carry out this plan, an operational scheme had been put in place by certain national politicians with the participation of well-known national and foreign drug barons, as well as an attempt to manipulate electoral results.
Nacionais e estrangeiros, bem como tentativa de manipulação de resultados eleitorais. Para a efetivação desse plano, foi descoberto pelo serviço.
The implementation of this plan was uncovered by the State Intelligence Service using a depot of war weaponry.
De armamento de guerra. Assim, e até que toda a situação seja convenientemente esclarecida e reposta as condições para pleno retorno à normalidade constitucional.
Thus, and until the entire situation is duly clarified and conditions are restored for a full return to constitutional normality, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and
profundamente comprometido com os valores de segurança nacional,
deeply committed to the values of national security, civil peace, the defense of the country's territorial integrity, and the independence of Guinea-Bissau, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order is reacting to the discovery of an ongoing plan to destabilize our country.
reage à descoberta de plano em curso de desestabilização do nosso país para a operacionalização da qual se montou esquema.
To carry out this plan, an operational scheme had been put in place by certain national politicians with the participation of well-known national and foreign drug barons, as well as an attempt to manipulate electoral results.
Nacionais e estrangeiros, bem como tentativa de manipulação de resultados eleitorais. Para a efetivação desse plano, foi descoberto pelo serviço.
The implementation of this plan was uncovered by the State Intelligence Service using a depot of war weaponry.
De armamento de guerra. Assim, e até que toda a situação seja convenientemente esclarecida e reposta as condições para o pleno retorno à normalidade constitucional.
Thus, and until the entire situation is duly clarified and conditions are restored for a full return to constitutional normality, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has decided to immediately remove the President of the Republic, close until further notice all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, suspend until further notice the activities of all media outlets, immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process, close land and maritime borders and the national airspace, and establish a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Em curso. Encerrar a fronteira terrestre, marítimo, espaço aéreo nacional.
What you have to know that in Guinea-Bissau there is a curfew which is taking place right now. Borders have been closed, air traveling, and a lot of things are no longer working. Media, they are all switched off. Radio stations, TV stations, and other media outlets have been all blanked. So you get to be very aware about that in Guinea-Bissau there is a coup d'etat. Coup has taken place. Then soldiers have taken control. But it has been said that due to the election which took place, a group of military officers says they have seized control of Guinea-Bissau amid reports that the President Umaro Sissoko Embalo has been arrested. Shortly after gunshot has been heard in the capital Bissau, government sources told the BBC that Embalo has been detained. Then officers, the soldiers, appeared on the TV station saying they had suspended the electoral process as the West African nation awaited the outcome of Sunday's presidential election. They say they were acting something fishy with unnamed politicians who had the support of a well-known drug baron to destabilize the country and announced the closure of its borders and impose a nighttime curfew. So the election results were expected on Thursday. Both Embalo and his closest rival Fernando Dias had claimed victory. Dias was supported by former Prime Minister Domingos Pereira, who had been disqualified from running. Late on Wednesday afternoon, Embalo told France 24 in a phone call, "I have been deposed." Government sources have since told the BBC that Dias, Pereira and Interior Minister Bosch Kande have also been detained. Witnesses in Bissau heard gunfire earlier on at around 3. It was not immediately clear who was involved in the shooting or if there were any casualties. Hundreds of people on foot and in vehicles fled seeking shelter as the shots rang out, the AFP news agency reported. As you have heard it, there was election that took place in Guinea-Bissau, but somehow some of the politicians had something to mingle amongst themselves. They were plotting something very dangerous for the country. Then eventually the army has to take over and seize power. I don't have much detail about Umaro, how he has been running his entity, but the most important thing is that this is the news which has come out, so be aware about that and know in Guinea-Bissau there is a coup and there is curfew. Very many things are not taking place. Stay tuned and let's wait for what is next, and we shall update where necessary. Thank you so much for watching.